All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Snehal Kadam, and I'm going to be the session coordinator for today and take you through today's session. We have a great lineup planned today, and I hope that this session helps all of you learn something about biofilms, and I hope it helps us gain a few things for India Biofilm Society as well. To start off, we are going to have two talks by Dr. Ashwini and Dr. Tom, and they are going to take us through the Challenges and Solutions for Biofilm Research in India by Dr. Ashwini, and Tom is going to talk to us about the Biofilm Journal. And to take us through these two sessions, I'm going to hand it over to Hema, who's going to introduce our speakers and also moderate questions throughout the talk.
Thank you, Snehal. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Hema from Sanskrit University. Our speaker for today's session. Our speaker for today's session is Dr. Ashwini Chauhan, Assistant Professor in Microbiology at Tripura University, India. Dr. Chauhan's research experience includes implants-associated biofilms, persisters, and antimicrobial resistance in biofilms. Today, Dr. Chauhan's presentation is titled Challenges and Solutions for Biofilm Research in India. Welcome, sir. Please, the virtual stage is yours.
Thank you, Hema, for the introduction, and thank you, IBS, for giving me this opportunity and selecting a very difficult topic for me to present, because putting challenges in front of everybody is very easy because that's like complaining, but coming up with solutions was a real task. So I'll just, okay, can you just enable screen sharing so that I've tried to put some points together.
Okay, Ashwini, it's enabled. It's enabled. Okay, one minute.
So it says host disabled parts.
It's enabled. Okay, now check. It's enabled.
Okay. Yes. So,
Great. So Ashwini, it was a topic selected with you in mind. We knew you'd come up with solutions.
Yes, I hope so.
I did the challenges.
So I'm just trying to see how do I go about it. Open system, no. Okay. Files. How do I go about it? This is Microsoft.
So if you've opened your PowerPoint, you just need to click screen share, and it'll. If the PowerPoint is on your desktop,
PowerPoint it's on desktop.
It should happen there. Or then you can, I mean, if it's not working, quickly email it to me and I'll share it. But
let me see.
Yeah.
In system preferences, why it's asking me to open, desktop. Okay, what I'll do is like I'll share. Should I send you an email?
Yeah, send it to me. I'll share it.
Let me see.
Problem. Yeah.
What is it opening? Opening something or no? It's okay. Sorry for the delay, guys. So thank you, Karishma.
No problem.
So it's taking time to go. Okay, so meanwhile, I will just start, like we all know that, that biofilms are social structures and they are kind of ubiquitous and they are present everywhere, right? So when we talk about biofilms, my interest, I'll just tell you meanwhile that my interest, in biofilms came, when I moved to Shamar Gigo's lab at Institute Pasteur to work on central venous catheters to develop this model to study in vivo biofilms. And this is how I started working on it. And it was a pretty interesting project. And by that time, I was not at all interested in research as such. After doing my PhD, he was interested in going to industry, but then working in his lab on basic sciences, addressing adhesion factors and diagnostic markers, and especially then working in close collaboration with clinicians. It was very interesting, and I thought, okay, I need to have my own group, and I need to work, with freedom, what an academician gets. So I worked there for until 2016. From 2008, after moving from US, working on mycobacterium tuberculosis cell division. So it was like a very interesting story. Worked with Sanofi Pasteur and Leo, working on biofilms there to look if we can find some vaccine candidates against Staphylococcus aureus, because staph is a big challenge and there is no vaccine against it so far. So many, vaccines have been failed. Oh, thank you. So the presentation is just there. So I'll just ask Karishma to, just keep clicking for me. So this is the first challenge I would just say is it was very challenging to find solutions. India is complex. And then I talk about, so if you go to the next slide, which I already talked about. So we know that this is a surface associated communities is what we are talking about here today. And they are like ubiquitous in nature. So they are present everywhere. You talk any place, anything. You are sitting right now on your couch or on your sofa or a chair, wherever you're sitting, you are actually getting exposed to these biofilms. They are present. We don't know, we don't see them, right? So if we go to the next slide. Yeah. So what we have been talking, in IBS, so Krishma, if you just hold on, is bad biofilms. Bad means the harm that they are doing. They are clogging the water pipes, they are clogging your kitchens, showers, they are in your lungs, they are on medical devices, the central venous catheters, my favorite. Okay, and we know that basic and translational research is really much required, and everybody is doing their best and efforts so that we can, have these robust new knowledge pipelines leading to innovative technologies and products, and that that can drive Indian bioeconomy relevant to global markets. And our Prime Minister has been talking about Atmanirbhar Bharat, Make in India. So why not we join hands with this move of India as biofilm researchers, right? However, there is a glitch, because Krishna, can you please take on the next, that what we are talking in our Indian biofilm society at large is bad biofilms, but we have not included, we have not been able to reach to the people who are working on good biofilms. There are good biofilms, they are used in water, wastewater resources for treatment, bioremediation. So for broader context, we have to utilize both friends and foes. We cannot just concentrate on friends if we want to develop biofilm research in India, if we want to put in that say our big challenge. Okay, so if we go to the next slide, Krishna, thank you. So the next question is, are we ready? In India, I think the ecosystem is totally missing. When I was presenting this talk, I went through the bash that happened in US. Tom was part of it. All big V's, like the big names that I have studied and interacted during biofilm meetings in US or in Euro Biofilm or biofilms in UK. All these people were there. Then I was reading what were the points. Many points I could relate because I worked in Europe for a really long time. But when I look at Indian system, Indian scenario, we cannot pinpoint those challenges because those are global challenges. But specific to India, we have to first realize, that this ecosystem is missing. So how do we go about it? First we have to really find out who are the key stakeholders. Krishna, if we go to the next slide. So, there are some key stakeholders. It's not in India, it will be global. Then we talk about the biofilm research, and if we go next, so we talk about academia all the time. We talk about young and senior researchers. Our Indian Biofilm Society is full of young researchers, but somehow we do not have senior researchers. When we talk about senior researchers, I'm not talking about Erleen, Karishma, we are just not that senior. So some seniors joined and somehow we could not connect with them. Professor Idaya Karunasagar and Indrani Karunasagar joined. So we have to bring them back to move forward. So then industries, we know market commercialization is important. So we need to include in our society, we have to work in synchrony. We have to synchronize our work with startups and MSMEs. We have to look at next, if you could just click. So then society at large, what are the society where it impacts the most? Industries, hospitals, petroleum industry, pipelines, serious treatment plants. It affects everywhere. It's used everywhere. If we want to pitch in the policymakers to recognize biofilms as a field that deserves, or that needs a special funding, because if we are looking forward that big ticket funds, it will go in steps. They have to realize it. Right now, what people are seeing biofilm is as AMR mechanism. They study biofilms in their lab as a part of their research interest. But I worked in a lab where the research interest was biofilm. The research interest was driven by biofilm. So this is what we really need. Like Adeline is working on biofilm. Srinandan is working on biofilms, right? So we need a dedicated resource or the labs which not only work on, they work on biofilms at large, at the basic level, not only the eradication strategies, not only commercialization, but all these three partners, academia, industries, and society, they have to work on their parts and then collaborate so that we can pitch it to the government to modify their policies at large. Okay. So if we go to the next slide, Krishna. So we talk about seamless interaction among different stakeholders. It's very difficult, but possibility to practice has to be there. And I'll just give you an example that, when I'm talking about seamlessness, it's very difficult. Clinicians in India, they do not do research. There are very few. And thanks to IBS that we have few very good clinicians like Anusha, Karishma, and other day we had Mahima, and we can rope in more who are interested in research and who can collaborate with basic scientists, and we can talk to them, And then when we talk about the practices intending to connect people seamlessly have started, such as webinar discussions like we are having right now among a group of researchers involving different stakeholders. And funding agencies in India, actually like DBT, have also started to host sessions to, educate researchers for funding opportunities as a part of its endeavor to improve outreach, And as the world is getting connected digitally like never before, it has made opportunities more accessible. And, thanks to COVID, that's the only positive thing it has done, that we are able to connect. And the challenges are more evident in the society that we are facing now because we could connect. And the challenge that we face today is limited visibility of biofilm research in India. And these are the listed examples, the reasons: limited awareness. People really don't know what biofilms are. I went to one of the funding agencies. I started giving presentation, telling them what biofilms are. They're like, oh, we know it. I really wanted to tell them, sorry, sir, you don't know it. I'm in biofilm research for 12 years and I'm still struggling to know it. So there is very poor outreach. People in India still are not aware of AMR. How do you tell them what biofilm is? So that is a challenge. Then very sparse recognition, like I said, that biofilm is a big problem. It's a societal problem. It's a socioeconomic problem. And we need to understand it. We need to really address it. And so how do we go about it? So if you go next slide. So we have to empower all these stakeholders which are there, and we have to do it at different levels. It's going to be not at, if we want to bring everybody together. So we should start at the school level, teaching them biofilms. Karishma and Snehal are doing very good job on Twitter. I always see that they are bringing school students, reaching to them. I think biofilm should also become part of that, and more of us should join them. It'll be very great. We have to give them hands-on demonstration, tell them, go look in your sinks, kitchen. You might find biofilm. Look at your teeth of your friend. You might find biofilm. So there should be open days. We should invite students to our labs. Outreach programs in school should be there, right? And then there should be for young researchers. If we go next, Karishma. So for undergrad and graduate students, the technology-based outreach, we can use MOOCs nowadays. It's very easy. So we should teach them what the biofilms are. The aim should be just to differentiate at least microbiology students, the biology students, that what is the difference between the physiology of planktonic and biofilm microbes and significance of these microbial biofilms in everyday life. If we can do that, especially in Indian context, that would be great. So then going next. So then an exchange of training, upskilling of scientific cadre is really important, from undergrad to doctoral to regular faculties and scientists. We all have to get together, do more internships, trainings, workshops, and we have in universities, we have to do faculty development programs. Why not have a faculty development program specific to biofilms and sensitize each and every person that what biofilms are and how these are so important in their lives. For example, even household people, they should be sensitized for it. So all senior researchers, everybody, we have to reach to everybody. So next, so then we have to tell, when we do all these step things, then we'll be able to tell, okay, this is a priority area of research, including biofilms as a thrust area, so that we can look for fundings for basic and translational research, which is dedicated to biofilms completely. This is what we should actually look forward for. Okay. So then empowering the society, like I said, that there are several people who are part of this society. When we talk about the societal stakeholders, which is tertiary care, hospital, healthcare, clinicians, and food processing, all different kind of industries that have these challenges. So we should conduct workshops and trainings for these working professionals, because they do face these challenges, but they don't know what the biofilms are. They are not biologists, so they don't see bacteria. They don't see biofilm. They just see a slime, for example, in their pipes in the industry. They see a slime. For them, it's like a green. We know that these algal blooms are biofilm, but they don't know, right? So we have to do workshops and trainings. So next. So open discussions, conversations, dialogues, so that we can collaborate more and more with industry people and these societal people who get impacted directly, meat industries, for example, and then we have to really, last session, we were discussing about a lot of methods related to this. So we have to standardize methods in Indian labs, so they are accessible to each and everybody. If any student, any part of India has a problem related to a method, should be available somewhere. There should be a platform. It should be more than this. So everything should be standardized, and then we can push these stakeholders. Like, for example, the society stakeholders to write a little bit more the problems that they face, so that we as a basic researchers, we can go to them and talk to them. We push them to write their problems and we can help them. Because one of the major challenges that I, when I'm talking to clinicians, is that they say they don't have time. They're so busy in the clinics that they have like piles of data just lying there. Then I said, well, that's where we come into picture. We can help you. We need collaboration. We need to understand the real-time problem. We would love to visit your place, see the problems, discuss with you. And this is what we have to do. We have to outreach to these people, okay? So then, next slide. So entrepreneurs and business leaders, they have the opportunities and problems. That's where the whole opportunity lies when it comes to biofilms, and the market size. They should know it, and we should collaborate and interact more. Like last time, we had a wonderful talk from, on startups by Lean. They are going into it, and how she's doing consultation. It was fantastic. And there was a young guy coming up with the urinary catheters coated with silver nanoparticles and doing very good. So we have to have more of these things, And then basic science, we cannot neglect, because basic science does the job to reach to the clinic, reach to the market. So we have to really go for them. Once all these stakeholders, they work their parts, then we can pitch in, okay, prioritize biofilm research in India. We need money for it. We do not need money just for AMR, biofilm as a mechanism of AMR, but biofilm per se. Then only we can just tell, right? So, Krishna, if you could just click next. So, like I said, outreach, collaboration, impactful exchange between this triad of academia, society, and industry would pitch in. Then we'll get this big ticket, what biofilm researchers have been waiting for. We know we are now connected. We should connect more and more. So next, Karishma, please. So now we have these 4 stakeholders, what I talked about, what they should do at their own levels. And then the next would be that how we connect them, So what will be the strategies? If I could just click next. So we have to come up with some synergistic models of networking, collaboration, and scientific exchange among all these 4 stakeholders, not between 2, not between 3. It should be together so that these 3 can go to this last investment pipelines, government policy makers. So I have thought of 2 models, which I'll go over in the next slides. So 2, biofilm evangelism is what we need, followed by biofilm stewardship. So I'll discuss what we can do under evangelism. So if we go to the next slide. So we need a calendar for biofilms to outreach to people. Put everything on this calendar so that people can know more and more. Biofilm podcast, where, for example, I need to talk about some strain which forms biofilm on wound, and Karishma has it. So I talk to her. If that conversation, that scientific conversation is available somewhere, we can, the students can go and listen to that. For example, right now we are recording. Somebody can always go back and see, okay, what could be the challenges, And we talk about inter-kingdom crosstalk. We need interdisciplinary talk, because when we talk to a physics person, when we talk to a chemistry person, as a biology guy, it's very difficult for me to understand their point of view, and it's very difficult for them to understand my point of view. So we really need to work upon it and make an easy talk. Biofilm hackathons. There are so many hackathons going over. Why not have biofilm hackathons frequently? So that we can come up with more and more ideas, right? So this is how we should progress. So if you just clicking on, so then monthly lab troubleshooting sessions, shout out, I have a problem. Who can help me? Because we are in a very nice situation when we compare to the West. The biofilm scenario in India is pretty new. It's good that we have started. Then we should have journal clubs. We have this every fortnight. Why not do journal clubs? If somebody is not presenting data, that's fine. Let's do the journal clubs. What is going on in the field? Learn more and more. Then researcher in residence, whatever the new findings we do, we discuss. So that new generation can be benefited. The young researchers could be benefited. Entrepreneurs in residence. We had last time very beautiful talk. So we should have more of those so that we know what are the new technologies that are getting, that are in pipeline or that are upcoming technologies. So all these should be there. We should work upon all these things. So Krishna, if you could just next, trainings and internship. We should train more and more and more people, So when we talk about this evangelism, it's more of voluntary driven initiative. We do not need extramural funds. So we have to build up such that we are heard to the government, by the policymakers, that biofilms are really important. Okay. And this will be, if we just click next, Karishma, and then just we have to take the ownership, Snehal is taking the ownership, maintaining the people who are maintaining all the students and young researchers for the cause, for the responsibility, and we should contribute, we should think of giving more. That's how we are going to move. I know it sounds very cliche to many, may sound, but this is how we have to move together. So then going to the extra bigger point of view, the next step, going to the stewardship, we have to have a biorepository. This should be biofilm centric. The isolates that form biofilms, if they are there, available to the people so that they can go there, because we know that the strains that are there in globally, we cannot afford as Indian scientists. Our funding agencies do not give us money to buy 1 lakh rupees worth 1 strain from ADCC. I'm struggling with that. If I invest 1 lakh rupees to buy 1 strain from ADCC, and if I need 5 strains, it's like 5 lakh worth of consumables gone. So I have to think. So more and more multi-centric interdisciplinary research is required. Okay, center of excellence, which is biofilm centric, so that we have a research infrastructure, human resource capacity building is really important. We have to train more and more. Whatever I have learned in Jean-Marc's lab, at Sanofi Pasteur, it should go to the next generation so that the biofilm, research is going. So everybody should know, because it's the younger researcher who will give their input. So it requires investment and funds. So it's PI centric. So all the PIs have to get together and lead towards the biofilm stewardship. So we are, from Indian Biofilm Society, I think now it's time that we move to this biofilm study group. Like Tom can, he's like chairing it right now, similar to ECMET study group for biofilms, how we can go about it so that active researchers can, come together and look for this and become the hotspot for investment and support, which is supported by private and public fundings. So we can move from evangelism to stewardship, the key driver, bioeconomy, and the lastly, I didn't want to point it out, the Indian Biofilm Society needs to move from central leadership to collective leadership. We cannot all the time embark and put all the burden on Karishma. She's doing fantastic, but I think we all really need to give shoulder to her. Okay. And lastly, what I would like to say, if you click Karishma, that, moving towards global biofilm stewardship, I'll leave you with a question that emerging as regional leaders, it's really, really important that we work upon these points. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Ashwini. No burden, but sure, more the merrier.
Yes.
Yeah. It needs a community. All right. So
it needs a community.
That was a wonderful talk. And Hema, please take over.
Thank you. Any questions from the audience, please?
Just a comment, Ashwini. It was a wonderful talk. It was a really wonderful talk. Gave us a spirit once again.
Yes, so, same for all, Srinandan.
Yeah.
Same for all.
So one thing which you pointed out that there are no beneficial biofilm research groups. There is a very strong research group who work on environmental biofilms. And it is one of the very senior. I think Karishma, we have to talk to them and again bring them to the mainstream for society. Sure. For example, the bark in Kalpakam, it was one of the oldest this thing in research which started in India. They work on because there was a very big economic crisis, I think in 70s or so, where there was a biofouling in the heat exchangers and the electricity power generation. And because of that, section was formed, and there is a big group which works on biofouling. We have to somehow bring them to a society, and actively. I think there is this kind of research also going on, not only medicine, there is also environment. Okay.
Yeah, right.
And the second thing is, which Ashwini pointed out on pedagogy, that we have to reach students. That is something very important. For example, 4 years back, I also started the biofilm and microbiome course. And now it is 4th year. I'm ready to share the syllabus with you all. So in our universities, we have to, just like Ashwini pointed out, biofilm evangelism. We have to go to all universities so that they can start an elective or at least on biofilms. This is something very important, I feel.
Yeah. I also floated out biofilm elective course this semester to master's students so that at least they can get acquainted with what biofilms are.
Excellent. Yeah. So we can put this as an agenda that we can act on. Put together our curriculum, our syllabus, and propose this. And now with everything moving online, massive open online courses, this would be a great way to close it without a lot of administrative hassles of going through university syllabus divisions and things like that. Okay, great points. Excellent. Hema, you want to take one quick question because we should be in time.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I say something? Sorry to interrupt you. Hello.
Yes, sir, please.
Yeah, sorry. I'm Dr. Sunil Patil from ISER Mohali. So I agree with Dr. Srinandan what he was referring to about including maybe people from different other fields who work on microbial biofilms. So for instance, I work on very specific kind of microbial biofilms referred to as electroactive microbial biofilms. So of course, in the context of environment and so on. Actually, this is the first time I am attending this particular meeting. So my impression was also, that maybe this is something more of clinically significant biofilms, or something related to the medical field. But if we can try to maybe consider, including other people who work on environmental or any other kind of biofilms. So for instance, as I said, we work with electroactive biofilms. That's also very interesting area of research. So I have started in ISER Mohali 3 years ago, and we have a kind of well-established group now in that particular field. So that will be really great to to accommodate more people and to make it even to achieve whatever the goals are. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, sir, for this wonderful informative speech. Now let's move on to the next presenter. We have Professor Tom Cohen, the head of Laboratory of Pharmaceutical Microbiology at the Ghent University in Belgium. Professor Cohen's research focuses on understanding the fundamentals of microbial biofilms, including the formation mechanism behind the generation of tolerance and resistance by biofilm microbial cells, and also the interaction with the host. Professor Cohen's talk is titled Biofilm Journal, where he is also the editor. Welcome, Professor Cohen, and thanks for joining us.
Okay, thank you very much for the invitation. I hope you can all hear me. It's good morning for me. It's good afternoon for all of you. I'll try to share my screen.
It's all enabled, Tom. You should be able.
Yeah, I think I should be fine to do it.
Yes.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So again, thanks for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to be able to talk about biofilms and especially about the Biofilm Journal. So I have prepared a talk of what I think will be probably around 20-25 minutes, more 20 than 25, I think. So there will be ample time for questions. But of course, feel free to contact me or us afterwards if there are additional questions that I have not been able to answer or things that came up later. I really, we're of course very much willing to answer any questions you may have. And you can do that via Twitter, but of course, feel free to contact me by email as well. Okay, so as a brief introduction, what do we do as a biofilm journal? We're published by Elsevier, and we focus, you can read it there, we focus on hypothesis or discovery-driven studies on microbial cells that grow in multicellular communities. So we focus obviously on biofilms, and very importantly, we focus on, while we focus on biofilms, we are interested in biofilms in all areas. We are interested in manuscripts that look at biofilms in the clinical setting, in the environmental setting, in industry, in agriculture, good biofilms, bad biofilms. We really welcome papers in all these areas. How are we organized? So there are 4 senior editors. I'm one of the 4. The others, you can see them there. Berthe is at the University of Maryland in the US. Akos is at the Danish Technical University in Lyngby, close to Copenhagen in Denmark. And then Darla comes or works at the Center for Biofilm Engineering at Montana State University in Bozeman in the US. And I'm at Ghent University here in Belgium. So we are the 4 senior editors, but of course we cannot do everything. We cannot do this alone. So we assembled an editorial board, 41 specialists from all over the world. I'm not going to read all their names, but I'm sure you recognize some of the names. We try to build a diverse board. I'm sure you recognize some names, as I said. A diverse board, not only in terms of where people are coming from geographically, but of course also in terms of topics they can cover. And so we have people that are specialists in clinical biofilms, and we have people that are more specialized in other areas of biofilm research. And this way, when a manuscript comes in, we can assign it to the editor which has the most relevant expertise. So at some point we asked all our editorial board members to give us a few of the keywords that would nicely explain their expertise and their topics, and then we put all of that together. Obviously, biofilm came out very strong. We probably should have told them not to include biofilm, but okay. I'm just showing this overview because it gives you a schematic or an impression, at least, of the diversity of the topics that are being covered. Of course, and I'm going to take out a few of them. I mean, it's about resistance, it's about antimicrobial activity, it is about quorum sensing, it is about tolerance, infection, but also environmental biofilms, bacteria and fungi, etc. So basically, if you would zoom in on this, I would suspect that almost every important aspect of biofilm research is in one way or the other covered by the expertise of our editorial board members. So we started really in late 2018, and the first manuscripts started coming in 2019. And I just wanted to give you a bit of an overview in terms of how we have been doing. So you see some key numbers here for 2019, 2020, and then 2021 up till I think last week. And so in orange you see the number of manuscripts that have been submitted. Then in blue, dark blue, the number of manuscripts that have been rejected. In gray, the ones that have been accepted. Then there's always a few that have been withdrawn or removed. Not important to think about that right now. And then, of course, the most important thing, the number of published papers. So as you can see, we got in, and I'll zoom in a bit more on that later. We received 55 submissions in the first year, which was really great. But only published, well, not only, but we published 14 papers in the first year, which again for a first year is not bad at all. And so while our number of submissions went down a little bit in 2020, we actually published more papers, 22. We were quite happy with that. And okay, you see the numbers for 2021, which is of course still early day, and not much I can say about that right now, I guess. So if we look at where actually I'd like to go back to this slide and make one further comment. Sometimes people think, oh, it's a new journal. They really need manuscripts and they will publish everything we submit. I think some people think that way. I think these numbers show that this is really not the case. So we have a fairly high rejection rate. I would say approximately, and you can do the calculations yourself, but approximately 50% of the manuscripts we receive is ultimately rejected. A fair amount of these is what we call desk rejected. So these are rejected either by us or by the editorial board member that handles them. So they're not even sent out for review. And the other half is rejected after peer review. So we are a young and starting journal, but we nevertheless aim for quality. And so I'll come back to that later on. But that is an important point to keep in mind. If we look at the geographics here, then it's 2019, 2020. I would say roughly equally divided in terms of submissions, Asia, Europe, and North and Central America, with some smaller numbers from Australia and South America. So that is roughly equally divided. If we look at the top 10 countries, and this is about papers that have been submitted, we see that the most come from the United States and the United Kingdom, and then India takes a fair amount, especially in 2019, and then the other countries the numbers, the absolute numbers are of course still quite low. Now, if we look, the picture is a bit different than if we look at accepted articles. So this is of course obviously an important point. So I go back, you see that for example in 2019, 1/3 of the papers came in from Asia, while the number of accepted papers there was substantially lower. Somewhat similar picture in 2020. And again, this of course translates if you look at the top 10 countries, where you again have the United States on first place, and then you can see the other data in there. So this is for us definitely a point of attention. We are really aiming to increase the geographical diversity in our collection of authors. So we really encourage people from other parts of the world to submit high quality research to us, and we're definitely open for that. But again, we see that there's a bit of a disconnect between the number of papers submitted and the number of manuscripts submitted and the number of articles ultimately accepted for some countries and some regions. We are very aware of that. We're very eager to do something about it. And this is one of the reasons why I'm actually talking to you now as well, of course. Okay. Right. Very important, I think, for authors, of course. They always, when an author submits a good quality manuscript, they want it to get published as quickly as possible. And this is something we work on very hard. So we try to make the process as quickly as possible. So what you see here is the time. It's expressed in weeks, so average weeks. 2019, 2020, 2021 up till now. No big differences there between the different years. The time it takes for a first decision. So in orange, you see the time it takes for a first decision if we do a desk reject. So that's not what you want, but at least that's not the news you want to hear. You don't want to hear from us, well, look, we're not going to send out this manuscript for peer review. We understand that, but at least we make the decision fast. So you get that result back from us in a couple of days. So at least you don't waste on the time. Don't waste time. We're not sitting on the manuscript. We give you the opportunity. We give the authors the opportunity to submit it somewhere else. If we decide to send the manuscript out for peer review, the average time to reach a first decision is somewhere between 6 and 7 weeks. We're really working hard on reducing that time further. Ideally, we get it down to 4 or 5 weeks. That might be a bit ambitious because, of course, we're relying on external reviewers to review the manuscripts, and that's not always easy. But that's where we're at right now. And then the time to a final editorial outcome, you see that in gray. This is now approximately 13 weeks, so roughly 3 months. So this is the time it takes between the moment the author submits the manuscript and we ultimately take the final decision that it's accepted. So this includes the first round of peer review. This includes the revisions by the author. This includes, sometimes that's necessary, the second round of peer review. So to be able to do that in 3 months, that's actually not bad. Of course, we will be working, we are working hard on getting these numbers down as well, but we're actually already quite happy with where we stand for the moment. An important point to make, we are a gold open access journal. That means that there are no subscription charges. And that everybody is immediately and able to see your manuscript, and it will be permanently free to access by everyone around the world. That really means that once your manuscript is accepted, it will be online in a matter of days, 1 or 2 weeks maximum, and then everybody will immediately be able to read it, to download it, and to share it. That's a good news. Of course, as you know, with open access journals, there is a fee that needs to be paid by the author or the research funder, of course, to cover the costs associated with the publication. That is a model that is gaining a lot more traction over the last decade, I would say. I can answer questions you have about this, but all the information about fees and also information about waivers that we have can be found on the link you see there. And for your information, I will share the slides of this presentation with the organizers, who can then forward them to all of you. So you don't have to take notes. You can, of course, get these slides from me afterwards. Okay, so you submitted a manuscript, it's been reviewed, it's been revised, it ultimately gets accepted, it goes online. What then happens with it? Well, I mean, people see it. As I mentioned in the beginning, we are being published by Elsevier, which is a very large publisher. Elsevier also runs the Science Direct platform, where they host all the manuscripts and keep track of all the publications and keep track of what is being downloaded and looked at. And so this is the number of times people looked at a full text in the Biofilm Journal in 2019 and 2020. 2019, we had close to 16,000 views. Of course, that makes sense because we only started accepting papers in manuscripts in 2019, so we didn't publish much until later in 2019. And that already went up to over 81,000 in 2020. And we have all these data, we know that the average number of downloads per paper is approximately 2,700. So if you publish in our journal, your manuscript or your research will get noted. To give you an overview, and again, I don't want to go into too much details here, we of course have these metrics at the level of each and every individual article, and so we can tell you how many times a particular manuscript has been downloaded, and you see the numbers there. There's of course differences between different types of manuscripts, and review papers typically get a bit more downloads than regular articles. But you see that also some of our regular articles get very high levels of downloads. So again, the point I want to make here, if you submit with us and if your paper gets accepted in our journal, it will be noted by the biofilm community and it will be read by people in that community. We are very happy that quite recently, I think in the beginning of 2021, we are now also indexed in PubMed and PubMed Central. That means that if you look up, if you do searches on PubMed or PubMed Central, publications from the Biofilm Journal will pop up. And so this, of course, will drastically increase the use of the manuscripts, the use of the data, will drastically increase citations as well. So we're really happy about that, because I think this is an important thing. You want to publish your work in a good journal, but then of course you also want to make sure that the people for who that research is relevant can get access to it and can find it. We will get indexed in a couple of more databases, probably in the course of this year and later on as well. But of course, we are already very happy with these first steps and first numbers. Okay, so maybe shifting gears a little bit and tell you or talk a little bit about how you can get involved with biofilm. We are always, as I said, every manuscript is reviewed by at least 2 and most of the times 3 reviewers. So we need a fair amount of reviewers, and you can get involved as reviewer with the Biofilm Journal as well. And to make that easier, you can actually volunteer for peer review with Biofilm. We have a program that is, again, run by the Researcher Academy from Elsevier that is called Volunteers, volunteering for peer review. So I'm not going to read all this. You can look it up later. You can enter your information in our editorial system, and then clearly indicate that you are, and this is what's shown here, answer yes to the question, are you willing to review for this journal? And then if we have manuscripts, and of course you need to put in your keywords and the areas of expertise, but when you do that, it's a lot easier for us as editors to find you, and then we can get you involved in reviewing manuscripts for the journal. This is something we started doing relatively recently. And again, we hope that this is a good way for people to get involved in peer reviewing. I think there's also a benefit in acting as a peer reviewer. You get to know the editorial process, and it helps, I think, later on to write better manuscripts as well. So for anyone who wishes to do this, please sign up. We always need reviewers, and I think it's a good thing to do, especially for young researchers as well. Of course, you can get involved with us as an author, and this is something we hope many of you will do in the near or not so near future. I cannot give you, I don't have the time right now, a detailed explanation about I cannot give you a full author workshop. We have done some webinars in 2020. I think we've run 2 webinars that gave more information about what is needed for you to successfully publish your research in biofilm. One of these webinars is still available online, so you can watch it again. This is the one I've done with Jurte and Darla. So watch it again, and it gives you a good idea of the things you need to think about. But of course, we run author workshops frequently. We've done one in 2019 at the China Biofilms meeting. We will do another one at Asia Pacific Biofilm meeting, which is the new name for the China Biofilm meeting. That will run online this year, of course, I think in May. So we're very much willing to do that. So if you would organize a meeting and you think it would be useful that one or more of the senior editors comes and talks about how to write the best papers, which things to pay attention to for 45, 50, 60 minutes, we would be more than happy to do that. Please get in touch with us, and I'm sure we can organize that. So I want to take a few things out of these webinars that we do, or these author workshops that we do, a few important things. One thing I think is very interesting for authors, those of you who have already submitted papers know that different journals have different styles and different requirements, and it can be extremely frustrating to format your manuscript in the right way before submission. Especially if you submit it, it gets rejected, you want to go to another journal, you have to reformat it again. It's just a pain to do that. So we have a different way about this. It's called Your Paper, Your Way. You basically can submit your paper in any format that you wish. And we'll only ask you to make some specific changes once the manuscript has been accepted. So you don't have to do it before, but if it gets accepted, we will ask you to do a little bit of formatting. But then at least you know that it's worth that you do that effort. And somebody has checked, so you can submit one single file for review, and actually you can submit your paper to biofilm in 15 clicks. Not uploading multiple files, you don't need to provide a lot of information, so it's really an easy process. Of course, we do have a bit of guidelines or recommendations. You want to make it easier for the editors and the reviewers to read your paper. So, this is general, but I mean, it's not because we give you complete freedom in terms of how to format your paper that you should ignore these basic things. But I guess most of you will already know that, of course. So I want to end with a few things on what you can do to increase your chances as an author to having your paper accepted in biofilm. So what we do, we of course expect that there's information in the manuscript that advances the understanding of the biofilm field. So that means that you have new and original data, or that you give a new interpretation to already published data. Or of course, you can submit a review paper as well that is interested. We are interested in that as well. So please take a closer look at our aims and scope. Again, you can see the link there before submitting manuscripts. We probably will not be that interested in purely descriptive studies. I think we would consider these for publication in biofilm if they contain a substantial body of research data and report on an important advancement in the field. And we really like to see more than just observations. Novel insights and mechanisms are, of course, strongly preferred. They're not necessary. I mean, we have published descriptive studies, and some descriptive studies are really great and important. But in many cases, we like to see a bit more. The last thing is also interesting. Think about the models that you use. Again, if you want to do a study on, and I'm just going to use one example on urinary catheters, biofilms on urinary catheters, then you might want to think about not studying those in 96 well microtiter plates with a regular growth medium, because that's not very relevant in the context of urinary catheters. And so you can drastically increase the relevance and the value of your research, and so also the relevance and the value of your manuscript if you think about the right models and the most appropriate models to use in the beginning. We will typically not publish preliminary papers or papers that extend knowledge or case reports. So we want a bit more substantial. So for example, if you repeat work that has already been done in another lab with another organism, it depends, but most likely that will not be very high on our priority list. Work that is strictly focused on a local context. We sometimes get manuscripts of I've described the biofilm formation of 5 isolates I recovered in my hospital. That can be relevant. We're not saying it's not relevant, but it's not very relevant outside that local context. So we really want manuscripts that have somewhat broader implications. And another thing is we get a lot of manuscripts on people working with natural products, for example, plant extracts, and describe anti-biofilm activity without actually providing a mechanism or provide any identification of active compounds. We get a lot of these, and well, a substantial amount of these. And again, if the work is purely descriptive, we probably would not be very high on our priority list. So I'm focusing a bit on what you should not do, but of course, there's a lot of things we want you to do, and I'm sure there's a lot of people know this already, and a lot of people have data that would fit very well with our journal. So I really would like to encourage you to discuss potential submissions with us. Again, when we discuss manuscripts with you, we cannot guarantee that we will be able to publish it eventually, but it can help you making a decision on whether or not you're ready to submit. And also, if you submit a manuscript to us and it gets rejected, feel free to reach out. We can provide you with feedback and more explanation if needed, so you can improve the manuscripts and have a better chance of getting published in our journal in the next round. And with that, I'm going to end. Taking a bit longer than I originally expected, but again, I'll be happy to take any questions there might be. And if we're running out of time, again, I'm happy to answer questions by email later on as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Cohen. Thank you so much. We had a great insight through the journal. I think we can just go with one question at this moment. The question actually comes from Dr. Ashwini Chauhan. What's the cost of publication as funding agencies do not pay for open access?
Yeah, so I knew this question was going to come, and I deliberately did not put the information in the slides because I didn't want to put too much attention on it. Again, the most updated information can be found online. I think for the moment and we have some 25% reduction in subscription fees. I think for the moment it's around $2,000 US. So I'm aware that is substantial. I heard in the previous talk about the problems with the cost of strains at ATCC, and so I'm aware of the fact that such publications fees are not the lowest. We think they're in line with what you pay in open access fees in other journals like PLOS ONE and Frontiers and Scientific Reports. They're all approximately the same. So this is one point. The other point is that we do have waivers. So if there is a reason, if you say, well, I've done this research, but there's no way I can pay the open access fee, we do have waivers. So we can ask Elsevier, it's a company, of course, but we can ask them to waive the publishing fee or at least reduce it. And then you can publish the paper for a much lower price or actually no price at all. We can obviously not do that for everyone, and we obviously need some data to really show that it is needed. But if you are in this case, talk to us, and we'll discuss it. And there are options for waivers.
And finally, the last question: are you considering launching theme or topic-based special issues?
I'm not sure I got it, but was the question about special issues?
Yes, special issues,
yes.
Theme-based
Okay.
Special issues.
Yes, I should have put that in, and I realized that while I was listening to the previous speaker. So if you give me 30 seconds, I will share my screen again because I actually have it open. I have it open. If I now can find it here. Oh, let's see if I can do that. Oh, that's not working. Anyway, I'm not going to do that. We do have a special issue. Yes, so we do have special issues. There's one actually open for submissions, and the reason why I just thought about it is because it's on electroactive biofilms, or I think we call it electrified biofilms. So that is open for submissions. I think submissions are still accepted until somewhere in April, if I remember well. So please, if you're working in that field, feel free to submit manuscripts there. If you need a bit more time for submission, get in touch with us. We can be flexible in that regard. And on top of that, if you have suggestions or ideas for different special issues, please get in touch with us as well. What we typically do is we run these special issues with guest editors. So, so for example, the one we're running now on electrified biofilms is with one member of our editorial board and then one additional guest editor. So if you have good ideas about special issues, please get in touch with us, and we can talk about it. And if we agree that it would be a good idea or a timely idea to launch that special issue, we definitely will. We are thinking about launching 1 or 2 special issues every year. So this will definitely be something that will be coming back.
Thank you so much, Professor Cohen. Thank you for this wonderful talk.
My pleasure.
And on to the next session.
Okay, thank you so much, Hema, for taking us through these first 2 sessions. We are going to start now with our panel discussion. And for this, I would like to invite our 3 panelists. So we have Dr. Joey, who is from the University of Sheffield, Dr. Neha, who's from IIT Jodhpur, and Dr. Nandan, who's from Sastra University. So in this panel discussion, we basically wanted to talk about what are the ways that we can take India Biofilm Society outside India. And of course, we want biofilm researchers in India to come together, but we also want to find out ways of taking this globally. How can we represent biofilm research being done in India in different platforms across different countries, and how we can develop collaborations. So I think I just want to start this off maybe by asking Joy to talk about the collaboration she has already established in India and any insights she's got from that, especially in terms of if funding agencies outside India need something very specific when they're trying to fund collaborations between 2 different countries.
Thank you. And thanks very much, everybody, for inviting me to come and speak today. It's really exciting. And also congratulations on the India Biofilm Society, because you're doing really great work. So as you've heard, I'm at the University of Sheffield in the UK. I work in the School of Clinical Dentistry. So we do a lot of work on oral biofilms, although my main focus is on skin and soft tissue infections. And that's really where Karishma and I kind of joined together. So I was originally approached actually by Snehal, and then we were chatting, and just by coincidence, the week before I met Snehal, we'd been discussing your latest paper in my lab group. So everything kind of came together all at once. And you suggested that Karishma and I should really get together and have a chat. So we got together, had a Zoom meeting, and it turned out that our interests and our research interests were very complementary. So we're looking at the same kind of things, but from slightly different angles. So we were talking about our different models for wound healing and biofilm infections. And just through this kind of discussion, we think, well, we could do that, you could do that. And so we applied for a Royal Society International Exchange grant, and we got it. We were successful, which was really exciting. So what's going to happen with that is that it's very much a collaborative small grant. So we will spend a week in each other's labs when we're able to travel, which will be great. And in the meantime, we're discussing how we're going to kind of basically put our models together to make one super model, as it were, which is going to be a human relevant model of biofilm infection and wound healing in skin and soft tissue. And I'm also waiting to hear the outcome of another grant, which is for a workshop in Hyderabad with Sanita Roy of the LV Prasad Eye Institute. And that will be a workshop for robust and easy and early detection of biofilm infection in India. Prior to that, I've done quite a lot of work with LV Prasad in Hyderabad, mostly driven by Professors Sheila McNeil, Steve Rimmer, and Ian Douglas, who some of you, I'm sure, will have heard of. And we were working in very close collaboration with LV Prasad, again, on detection and removal of infection on corneas. So this has been kind of going on for quite a few years over several grants, mostly GCRF funded, so the Global Challenge Research Fund. So that's the first place I would suggest people look. So GCRF, Newton Baba have sort of ongoing funding opportunities. There's a website, the UK Research and Innovation, UKRI. They have an India-specific page which lists funding opportunities on it. So that's always worth having a look as well. I think as far as kind of specific what you need to apply for these collaborative grants, it's very similar to a normal grant application. You need all the normal stuff. So you need enthusiastic people, you need the background knowledge, you need a good problem. You know, it's writing it as a normal grant, as it were. The only thing that might be slightly different is that they will put in quite large sections about capacity building and the impact in India. So that's always something that's worth thinking about. So what kind of types of impact are you going to have? Is it purely economic? Is it just, you know, curing biofilm infections? So that the impact and the capacity building aspect is probably the one that's the most different to a kind of straight research application.
All right. Thank you so much, Joey. So I think with this, I want to ask Dr. Nandan his thoughts on taking India Biofilm Society outside India, and what do you think are the challenges when we have to start developing international collaborations, and any insights you have from going about this?
Okay. Thank you, Snehal. First of all, happy National Science Day. Tomorrow we'll all have a National Science Day. We are talking about science. So it was because of the Raman effect. And depending on the question what Snehal asked, I have actually no experience, but I do have collaborators, and there is no formal collaboration kind of thing with a grant or anything. But I think this IPS has really induced more kind of collaboration. In India, as such, when you see, we have a lot of, as even Ashwini had pointed out in his talk, we have a lot of carrying capacity. So a lot of researchers are, even IPS is very nascent. So we have a very high carrying capacity. So now we can initiate these kind of on biofilm, particularly collaborative projects. Especially I think in India, when you see in the medicine uh, throughout the world as compared to US or Europe, we have a high number of infections, especially biofilm infections. So it is a real problem in India. For that we can have collaboration, and even the environmental and industrial problem, for example, as Ashwini has mentioned in his talk, even the government for Atmanirbhar campaign, a lot of startups are coming up, and certainly will have lot many biofilm kind of problems, and we can also have biofilm kind of startups, so we can have a lot of collaboration on that front kind of thing. So the ultimate thing, what I want to tell is there is a lot of high carrying capacity in our country for this biofilm collaboration, and there are schemes like DPT and DST. They have Indo-Danish, Indo-Singapore, Indo-Asian kind of collaborative projects which are coming up. I think we will all have to. There's a very good kind of collaborative talks which we are having, and this could inspire us to have more such kind of collaborative projects. But one thing I would also like to propose over here is that we can have an international biofilm specific journal club or anything. So this may also induce a lot of interactions between other countries, because science is not geography based. So Corona has given us a very good opportunity of online this thing. So we can have online journal club. That is what is my proposal. This may induce more kind of collaborative things in future. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Nandan, for that suggestion. I wanted to ask Neha what her thoughts were on developing international collaborations, and as a lab that's maybe young or has just started out, what is the approach that you've taken?
Thanks, Nehal. That was exactly I was going to talk about. That being a new PI, I think it's a challenge and an opportunity as well to establish new connections. I haven't tried with UK yet, but I have got one grant with US that was through ASM. So I'm not sure if we have any platform like ASM or any organization related to biofilm that can actually fund people from India and UK. So if Joe is available, know anybody or some agency like that, she might be able to shed light on it. But I think we do need a platform, which I feel, and as a young PI, I always feel very lost that whom should I talk to, or whether people are going to support me when I'm going to write a collaborative projects with them. So if we have a consortia or a database that, okay, these are the people who are working in India in biofilms, these are the people who are working in UK and who are interested in collaboration, that might help us to develop a collaborative project to begin with. And we can also put our like few things that what I'm working on right now or what other people are working right now and how we can mutually benefit each other. So that is one thing. And I'm really glad to see that Karishma and Joy, just with the help of talk, they could develop this project. And so I also wanted to ask Joy if, and first of all, I don't know whether I'm pronouncing your name correct or not. Yeah. So please correct me if this is wrong. So are these grants that you talked about, a couple of grants, are they rolling grants or they have the specific timings for application? So that might help us to prepare well in advance.
Yeah, they tend not to be rolling. They do tend to have specific submission dates. So as I mentioned before, there are some specific funding streams for the UK and India. So these are mostly the GCRF, which I think has gone in the chat. The Newton Baba Fund as well, which is kind of part of GCRF. And GCRF is slightly complicated because it covers lots of our different funding bodies. So it covers our EPSRC, BBSRC, the different research councils. It's kind of an umbrella funding body almost. But on as I mentioned, the UKRI, the UK Research and Innovation website, on their India page, they list all the India partners. So forgotten them all, but the DBT, people like that. So they will facilitate partnerships between the UK and India, and they have a link for current funding opportunities. So I'll find the link for it and put it in the chat in a little while as well.
Thank you.
So they do tend to have specific dates. They're not necessarily rolling, most of them, fortunately. But coming back to how to get people together, I think something like what you've got going here with the India Biofilm Society is really good, because you're getting all the interested people together and you can kind of present yourselves as a group. So in the UK we have, which many of you know about, we've got the NBIC, the National Biofilm Innovation Centre, which is a similar kind of group, and they've got together lots of researchers and industry people who aren't, as we were hearing earlier, we're talking about beneficial biofilms as well as trying to kill biofilms. So there are different streams for manipulating biofilms and also for, getting rid of biofilms. So I think kind of following their model would be really useful. And then you can get things like NBIC and your society together and kind of slowly gather other biofilm societies all together in one place and get people talking. I think that's going to be the way forward, to get people just meeting and chatting.
Yeah. And Snehal, if I just may add one more thing. Yeah. So from India side, I know there are a couple of mobility grants and certain sponsorships that allow researchers or young PIs to like travel to other place and then exchange the ideas as well as research experience. So I think there is one visiting research professorship which is given by, I'm forgetting, either DST, I think so, if I'm not mistaken. And sometimes the institute also funds. So just to initiate a collaboration, like I'm at Indian Institute of Technology. So our institute provides an international mobility grant to collaborate with people who have the similar research interest. So this is just an initiation where you establish a collaboration. The institute provides the fund to go, and you can also invite the visiting professor here to have exchange programs. But then you can carry forward this kind of collaboration for a longer term. So I'm pretty sure that in India also we might have certain collaborative grants that we can look into. And we may, through IBS actually, we can place all the information at one place.
There is one scheme called Spark. I hope Professor Adeline will know more about it. She recently had a collaboration with PI in Hong Kong with the Spark. So faculty from abroad, they can come to India and they can stay at the host institute for some longer period of time. If Professor Adeline can unmute, she can tell more about it.
Yes, it's a bilateral exchange program where we could have student exchange. Then we should, research collaboration. In addition to that, we should also organize bilateral conferences, workshops, symposiums. So it's again whatever NECA said about their institutional, the policy for collaboration between across countries. So same thing is being applicable there. So IIT Kanpur is responsible for, they have taken the complete initiative.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Adeline, for adding in about this grant. I think another aspect of just taking India Biofilm Society outside India, I think, is largely like participation in conferences and presenting work that is done in India at these international platforms. Of course, now given COVID, I have no idea when we're actually going to physically be able to go anywhere. But given that there are so many things that are happening online now, I think that just increases the kind of opportunities that young researchers have to present their work. So I just wanted to ask all of you in terms of like conferences that you think are the key places where biofilm researchers should try to present their work.
I would suggest, for sort of maximum exposure and kind of meeting people, probably the big microbiology conferences. So the Microbiology Society, the UK-based one, the American Society for Microbiology. And there's also biofilm-specific meetings. So there's Euro Biofilms, which isn't every year. I think it's every 2 years. FEMS. Just kind of the main big microbiology ones. I would try and get your stuff out there while we don't, it's terrible that we can't travel because we all enjoy traveling, we all enjoy meeting people face to face at conferences, but while a lot of stuff is online, we should all try and take advantage of it and, try and present as many things as we can while it's like this.
Recently, I think HEMS, ASM, and certain microbiology societies, they are doing organizing the World Forum of Microbiologists conference. I think it's maybe in June, July. I'm not very certain of that. I think these kind of conferences will certainly help. And even garden conferences, I particularly recommend students, they have to participate in the garden conference.
Okay, so I'm just going to open this up for questions from the audience now, in case anybody has something that they want to specifically highlight or ask about developing international collaborations. Please, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. So I think Dr. Ashwini did mention somewhere in the chat window that both ICMR and DST have mobility grants. So maybe if you have, if you've applied for these grants, or if you have any information about this, Dr. Ashwini, you can add in.
Hi everyone, hi Joy. Good to
Hey.
see you again.
And
We
you.
had a discussion and then we couldn't follow up. We will, but for sure. We have like few people from our university who took this ICMR and DST grants for, it depends like which age category you are. So you can have like a 6-month or a 3-month mobility grant for PIs. This is what they give. So, and then you need a lab, host lab to in another country. And it's like open anywhere, wherever you have, it's not about UK or US or wherever you want to go. And there are more which I'll inquire and put in the post in the society, that there's some collaborative grant for mobility with Israel as well. So I just have to figure out. I think this is also with DST. So these are specific to the countries, that they keep on opening. So those are also there. Yeah.
Thank you so much for adding. Yeah.
I think some specific institutions in the UK may have programs. So I think maybe Birmingham University has got an India institution where they have quite close collaborations with India. So it's worth looking at individual institutions perhaps as well and seeing if they have anything that's not national but is specific to them.
Okay, thank you so much for that suggestion, Joy.
Just a quick comment here. Since you're talking about, and I and Joey and I have discussed during our chat, right after that IBS in September, when the meeting that we had, that when you're looking for international grants, because I applied a couple and I failed to get them, so I'll admit that. But I think the reason could be because when you're going with a new PI, as a reviewer of a grant, this will come to my mind. What is the collaboration? Mm-hmm. Is it like for fetching the funds? Have you collaborated earlier? So I think before we fetch the funds, this is what I have been saying in my talk, like, even for IBS, we should not look directly for these big ticket funds. Rather, we should first collaborate, produce something and show that, there is something going on and we want to do more. Yeah. This is my take on it. So that's how we should move forward. Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree, Dr. Ashwin, with that. And I think the institutes might be able to help us to set up the initial collaboration, and that can be taken forward with the grant agencies.
Mm. Yeah, it's a really good point. So it doesn't have to be something big. It doesn't have to be a huge project, but if you show that you've got similar interests and you've been working on something and you're maybe working towards a paper or you have some pilot data, it's really helpful.
All right. Thank you so much. If there's anybody who has any other questions, you can go ahead. So I think just in terms of like grants, like you said, it's important to show that you've been working on something before. So based on your experience, is this like, does it always have to be a small project that you've done, or is it just, can it just be like you've already been in discussion about something, or you've already worked on maybe some aspect of a paper which might be tiny, but it's just some kind of collaboration or some kind of work that you've done together that already exists? Do you think that is something that is enough to support your applications?
Yeah, so again, I think it depends very much on what grant you're applying for. So, for example, the Royal Society grant that Karishma and I have recently got, that was for establishing a new partnership. So, in that case, we didn't need to have done any work before, because we were saying this is we're exchanging lab work because this is a new partnership and we want to build on each other's work. But obviously, you do have to show that you've met up, you've discussed things. So in that way that you have collaborated a bit just in talking. And then other grants will want you to show that you do already have an established partnership and you're building on something, but that tends to be the larger grants. So it's very kind of funding stream specific, whether you've worked together before or not, I would say.
All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, go ahead, Neha.
Yeah, so I was just going to share my experience, as Joey mentioned that. So the grant that I got through ASM, it was also a very pilot grant, and they didn't require any preliminary data over there. And it was basically the host was agreeing to have me there, and basically I was going to bring some expertise to her lab and learn more of her lab in Temple University. So basically, they didn't want any preliminary data. They looked just for the idea what I'm proposing that can be done in her lab within like 3 to 6 months time, and then we can make a bigger grant out of it. So they are very grant specific, I would say.
Okay, all right. And Neha, since you mentioned this was an ASM grant, can you just tell us a little bit more about it? Because I'm not sure if everybody knows exactly what the grant was, for how long was the duration?
Sure, sure. So this is American Society for Microbiology. So this grant is a visiting research professorship. It's usually given to young PI who would like to go for 3 to 6 months to US specifically to gain some expertise, which is not in his or her lab, but in the similar area where he or she would like to expand on. So like just to give an example, I work on biofilms and amyloids, which are a component of biofilms. And but I wanted to see the immunological aspect of biofilms and amyloids in mice when they are infected with salmonella. How does the amyloids respond, or how does the immune system of mice respond to these amyloids, which I do not have the expertise. So I pitched in that I have the amyloid expertise, whereas my host has an immune system expertise. And if we work together, we can answer these questions. So there are two types of fellowships that ASM provides. So this is visiting research professorship, which allows you to do research. There is another one which is called as visiting teacher professorship. So there you can just go and teach and gain some experience and just work in the lab a little bit, but not much. However, this was totally a research-based fellowship. And this is given once in a year, and they usually open the call sometime in June, July.
Okay, all right.
It's very good for young PIs.
Yes. So, and then just a follow-up question. It's just a one-way grant, right? So, because I remember
Yes.
Joey mentioned that the grant with her and Karishma is a two-way exchange.
Two-way,
So,
yeah.
like both of them can travel either way. But in this case, it's a one-way.
Yes, the ASM one is one way, and also there is I won't say it's a bottleneck, but the amount that ASM gives it, the host has to match the same amount. So the host has to invest the similar amount. ASM gives around $3,000 that can cover your expense, your flight and everything. And then the host has to give same amount.
Okay.
So that has to be made compatible with the host as well.
Similar things, some fellowships, other like EMBO and DAD for Germany, all these things also can be.
Yes, definitely. All right. I think since we are out of time now, we will. I just want to thank all of you for taking part in today's discussion and for giving us insights from your experience. And I hope this helps everybody develop more collaborations. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Okay, we will be moving to our next speaker, our next session, which is going to be a discussion, and Dr. Adeline is going to be moderating this session. In this session, we basically just wanted to discuss what are the possibilities for the future of India Biofilm Society. What are the immediate things we've learned from this two-day meeting? What is some agenda that we can write down and we can work on in the coming months? And just everybody's insight into what they see this India Biofilm Society doing for biofilm researchers and biofilm work in India.
So can I share?
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
Go ahead.
Right. So it's visible, right?
Yes.
Yes, thank you. Right. So I am here to initiate a discussion on future of India Biofilm Society. So, no one can deny the effort, the huge effort taken by Dr. Karishma and her team to bring everyone, all of us together under an umbrella, India Biofilm Society. So thanks to her and her team, and definitely she deserves a lot of appreciation. So I request everyone to take a moment to send your appreciation in the chat box. So Dr. Karishma, you have taken, two huge effort. It's not a smaller step, but we would assure you because a long way to go. So we would also travel with you.
Thank you, Adli.
That's
to you all. I'm going to say it in my closing remarks, but it has been the young researchers like Snehal and others. And I'm going to say this in my closing remarks. So to building a strong biofilm, sometimes we need strong biofilms,
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, right. Thanks a lot. So, when I thought about the future of India Biofilm Society, the very first thing that came into my mind was about its visibility. So I had a small discussion with my, as Karishma always mentioned, Snehal. So I do have my own people in my team. So I had a discussion with them. So they have given me a lot of inputs. So those collective information, I just want to, pinpoint one by one. Then let's go for it. Then I may request the, forum for a discussion. So you may post or share your suggestions, opinions, which would be taken forward by the team, for the future of India Biofilm Society. So the very first step, what we felt was we should have a very dedicated website. So probably should include, very few points have just pinpointed here. I just posted here. So we need more from the participants. So, it should have a complete database about the, the name of each and every biofilm researchers in India. So every minute detail about that, because I come to know about a person, this was the first, meeting with IBS. So we get to know many people. So that's one thing that we have to do. Then we should, have a separate provision for general, acquiring all general protocols. Then a list of basic and high-end instruments used by each and every researchers, biofilm researchers in India, and the major contact of that group. So, and as well, every research group is working in different biological system. I mean about bacterial system. So they would have a collection of strains and cultures. So we should have a database of that, the complete collection details about that. As well, the publication detail about every IBS member. So that database is very important to have a better connect among ourselves. So we felt that should be the first step. Then second step, step number 2 would be, because when I try to solve most of the biofilm mediated problems, what I mean is infections. So, as a biologist, I couldn't solve it completely. So I would require the support of computational biologists, chemists, physicians, pharmacists, as well other interdisciplinary groups. So this team, institution should include interdisciplinary researchers in the society. So that's another point which we felt would be would be the best one to be included. It should be taken care. And the third step, what we thought about was for increasing the visibility, as Dr. Ashwini has quoted during his talk, we should get ourselves engaged in organizing conferences, workshops, technical sessions. So it's not organizing one time and just leaving it. There should be a follow-up sessions for that. Already, Dr. Karishma and her team has initiated a lightning talk by students, so it should continue. And Dr. Ashwini, he mentioned about the journal club, those things, he has given a lot of solutions for the future of India Biofilm Society. So such things could be integrated over here. And definitely we should have poster sessions. It could be in the form of Twitter posters or normal posters, and special awards could be announced. So when we start to give recognition for a community, probably that would be the best way for us to get recognized. So such things could be taken care. So then step 4 would be, because our major focus is towards biofilm. So we should have specific biofilm related workshops, because we know that there are air liquid interface, biofilms could form at different air liquid interface biofilm formations, and it could form on any substrate. So the technique that could be used to characterize those biofilms may not be same. And different researchers use different methods to characterize biofilms and use various statistical methods to understand that. So if we could, go with the step 4, probably we could better connect ourselves to understand, because biofilm research, I think Dr. Ashwini, he said that biofilm research is not 100% anywhere. So still we are in the learning process. So definitely this would support us. And this is something which I have put as an end note, but I don't think this would be the end point. Before we, think about the visibility. So our institution, so this society should be registered. So for any society to get registered, it requires a quorum. I understand that we have the quorum. So I want Dr. Karishma to take a lead with the support of everyone over here to go forward to register this society. So there is a minimum requirement. We are here for you. And so once we registered this society, definitely we can have sibling relationship with different institutions in various regions in our country. So once we establish those relationships, those can be done by including student chapters. So what AMI does, Association of Microbiologists of India, such society does that. So we may do that, which could include membership fees like ASM, AMI. Definitely there'll be flow of fund. So these were the inputs which I thought that would be helpful for the future, for establishing. Already we have started, so it has to go a long way. So these inputs probably would help. So now I would, open the session for discussion. So wish to hear more inputs from the participants.
Absolutely. Thank you, Adeline.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yes. So I think the last point was perfectly placed at the last point, because it leads to the first point of the discussion.
Yeah.
Which is, how do we build a formal society? I think next step is I'm going to share a Google Doc. People can add in their inputs there. We have to make some decisions as to the structure. But if anyone wants to share their ideas now, Ashwini, you mentioned a study group. What would be the best way forward to formally establish this, where we can procure funds, have an account, have a bank account?
Yeah. So for that, we have Tom here. He'll be, if he comments on it, because ECMED group, he's the person for that. He's chairing it, so he'll be able to tell us better, and he can give the insight how they move forward with it. Like, ECMED is big, huge, I know, but we have to start somewhere.
Well, that was my Yeah, I can give you my thoughts, but I mean, there's two ways on how you can do this. I think, from my perspective, you can set up a society, an organization, a study group that is part of a larger organization. That's what we do. We, with the ESCMID study group for biofilms, we are part of ESCMID, and ESCMID is the European Society for Clinical Microbiology and Infectious Diseases. So we're a small part of a very bigger unit. That's one option. This is, of course, for us, this is how it's always been, and this is a very comfortable situation, because it's a very big society, and you can, of course, take advantage of the size of the very big society, even if you're a relatively small group. So the disadvantages is that you're not completely independent, and that you, of course, have to take several things into account. But overall, I think it's a great idea to do that. So I guess that would be a first decision. I'm absolutely not familiar with the situation in that regard in India. For example, is there an India Microbiology Society? If there is, then you could.
Yeah.
If there is, then you could potentially, it's not up to me, but a suggestion would be, you can talk to them and become affiliated with them or a subsection of their organization. The nice thing if you do that is that, of course, you immediately get access to all their members and the databases they have of members and contact information. So that can be useful. But I think it's always nice. It's always nice if you can be part of a bigger thing. It has advantages. I mean, the NBIC in the UK was mentioned. You see there's a tendency for researchers to get together in bigger entities, because it has all these advantages.
So yes, this is one thing we can. So Dr. Srinandan and Rohit, you mentioned AMI. I think that's Association of Microbiologists Association or whatever for microbiologists in India. If we'll put together the Google Doc, Adeline, but maybe they can give us some inputs how open AMI is to hosting us. This might be a good way to start without biting off too much.
Yes.
So AMI will already have the bank accounts. They'll already have ways to raise funds, and right, because part of raising funds means we'll have to show it in our taxes. We'll have to have a formal legal team, right, accounts team working on all of this, and that can't be us. All right. So is any other suggestions, Ashwini? You have anything else other than AMI?
Yeah, I mean, like I find, like the suggestion that Tom gave, like it's a fantastic and very good idea, because all these people in AMI who are heading AMI are like big V's of Indian Microbiology Society. They are there in the policy making for microbiology. Okay, they are on the funding agencies for microbiology. So we have to talk to them that this is the group we are having and we want to form this, how they can help us. And like Tom said, outreach will be better. It will increase. It will, go several folds.
If I may very briefly add one thing, it also, this is a bit of political thing, I guess, but it's also, you don't want to, if you start a new society, there's always going to be frictions, and people will see you as competition. And if there's a way to avoid that, I think it's always better. And also in terms of members, for example, if you're a microbiologist, you want to be member of the Association of Microbiologists in India, but maybe you also want to be member of India Biofilm Society, and then you have to pay membership fees twice, etc., etc. So there are, again, advantages in doing it the other way.
Good point, actually, very good point, very true.
And also maybe we are just too small to be a standalone biofilms group, right? Because we've been having meetings for a year, Ashwini, and it's the same people showing up. Though Snehal has done a lot of outreach, pushing emails, join up, sign up. I mean, maybe there are only that many biofilm researchers in India. Maybe just that.
One thing that I wanted to point out when I was presenting, like what challenge we have as a society, I feel like, we are trying to outreach only on Twitter. We have to go beyond Twitter, because in India, how many people, I started using Twitter very recently,
Exactly.
So not very many people are using, except for our celebrities, Bollywood and politicians.
Ashwini, we so belong to the former category, not the latter. I would go with Bollywood.
So, so we can ask being
Not
human guy
politicians,
to.
but Bollywood.
We can ask being human guy to sponsor some things. He's a big guy with a lot of money. So, jokes apart, but the thing, like I completely agree with what Tom said, and I think we really need to increase our outreach to the microbiology society, because biofilm is microbiology. So he's like totally right. And then, so Tom, I have a question again for you. I'm coming back to you again and again, like that. Is it possible that we can become some kind of a subgroup to estimate your study group? Is it possible? Can you give an outreach to India? Is it possible?
Well, first of all, that's not my decision to make. That's the disadvantage of being. That's the disadvantage of being part of a bigger group. That would be a decision that's made at the estimate level, not at our level. I don't know. I think for sure there are ways to make connections and to interact. I don't think you can formally become a subgroup, and I don't think that would be good as well. I think honestly, I think it's important that because then again you would be under the umbrella of a European organization, which could have advantages, but is not what I think you want. You want to become the face of biofilm research in India, and not a small part of a European organization. But of course, we can think about how we connect and how we do things together. For example, we could think about. We as the estimate study group, we are heavily involved in the co-organization of the China Biofilm meeting, now the Asia Pacific Biofilm meeting. We could very well do the same thing, for example, with the India Biofilm meeting, where we and again, I have to be careful because I have to step. I'm currently the chair of that study group. I have to step down at the end of June because my term has ended. So you will have to deal. You will have to deal with the new elected members. But anyway, the principle stays the same. I'm sure they're open. They will be open for collaborations as well, and we can do things together. That is definitely possible, and
Definitely.
would be a win-win situation for everyone.
Yeah, because the idea is, sometimes there are certain paths which you can't take straight. Being in India and for the last 5 years, what I'm observing is that if you want to outreach to the big V's in India, you have to make yourself visible first. So that's why I said that if we have like a collaboration with you or like, that study group, this will give us a better visibility in an Indian microbiology society, in AMI or all these places that, that we are reaching places and we are doing good as a society. So now we need your umbrella in India to make, this biofilm group visible and stronger. So that is the idea.
You also have connections with MBIC in the UK, for example. This is also something. I mean, so I think that's really is a good idea to reach out to organizations like MBIC, like us, and build these connections. And at the same time, make sure that you are visible as an entity yourself and as an entity in India, and not a subgroup of something.
Yeah.
I think this is a good point. So I think first action item is we contact AMI, which I'm going to very kindly ask Dr. Srinandan and Rohit to please execute that if they can. The second point is, Ashwini, you brought up great points about outreach, pedagogy, developing curricula, and the timing seems right for that. If you would agree, Adeline, you brought up those points again. We should make a list of those important points. Now, here's the question. We don't have a structure. There is no leader, there is no member as yet. So if we could operate the way we did now, Adeline, where every PI nominates or requests a member of their team to take a small piece of the puzzle, right? So maybe somebody can start the website development. I mean, if we partner with AMI, we just need to put their logo on the website. We can still start our website development, developing outreach platforms, like Biofilm Hackathon is an example. So maybe we make a list of priority action items. We continue to request our groups to be involved. What do you think about that? And we need more volunteers, actually.
Yeah.
I don't know how you would make someone volunteer. It's a little... I don't know how we make someone volunteer, but we need more volunteers. So what do you think about that? Because really we can't handle it as 2 and 3 people, right? So What do you think, Adeline and Ashwini? Do you think this is something we
actually,
can?
Karishma, like before you started, when you want to, come with this, when you came with this idea about Biofilm Baithak, you had, from each group there were volunteers, right?
Yes.
So, and we were able to execute this. So
Pretty
definitely there will
yes.
be people to come forward and,
Absolutely.
to implement all the action items, whatever we want to do it. So it's possible.
Sounds good, Adeline.
Yeah.
And really, to be honest, I'll say it in my closing remarks, but it was the young people who took this forward.
Yeah. And you know, the good thing about the society is that we have been very steady. Like you said that, you know, they are the same people who are coming back.
Yeah.
But they are coming back regularly. Isn't that good that we are not losing numbers? And then today, Dr. Sunil Patil from, he joined.
Mohali. Yes.
Aisha Mohali. So we have one person and the chain is building up actually. So I'm pretty optimistic about it. So
okay.
I think we really need to make
formal
a
organization,
list.
Some priority
formal organization.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Any other points anyone would like to mention? We can then wrap up this session. What do you think?
Yeah.
Like for outreach, is it possible? Can we have a logo? We have a name for the society. Can we just send to AMI presidents, secretaries, and everything? Just shoot out an email. Simple.
Yes, absolutely. We should do that, and we should put together a formal outreach because, as you correctly said, not enough people in India know about biofilms. So we should put together a formal outreach agenda, monthly or every 6 weeks, what we plan to do with different tools, like maybe podcasts, maybe the hackathon.
Karishma, like I have a suggestion. So before we reach to the AMI, senior most, people over there. So as you said earlier, we will have more reach out programs, and whatever Dr. Ashwini said, other than Twitter, we can also have other social platforms to have a better visibility. Then like, after that, maybe we'll
what
take
would you suggest other than Twitter?
Facebook, I feel Facebook. Then you said about web, we should have our own.
That we should. Yes, definitely. Definitely. I mean, and all of us, if we have our own group web pages, we can link the website to all of that. Right? Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So maybe we can go with the other sessions, or it's a conclusion session, right?
Yes, pretty much. Unless there are any closing, any remarks, anyone would also have any
There
ideas?
is also one more organization, the BRSI, Biotech Research Society of India. I feel those people are a little more open than AMI. That is what I observed. We can also approach BRSI for any collaborative thing.
Sounds good. Let's start with AMI and see what they say.
Yeah.
And then all right. Thank you. Any other remarks, or shall we then all put our videos on for the group photo?
Yeah. Today I shaved. Make sure that I shaved.
Sounds good, Ashwini.
Well, I didn't.
All right. What about everyone else?
I shaved too.
We are 31 people. So is there a limit on the number of, is there any limit on the number of tiles that appears on Zoom?
Yes, so I think you'll just have to switch through tiles and like take a picture.
Okay. So everybody can take screenshots, all right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just taking them. All right, I think that's it then. I think I got everyone. Okay, so I'll keep it short. I'll keep the thank yous short. Well, it's been a mammoth effort, and it's been an effort led by our early career young people in the India Biofilm Society, and this is how we want to grow the platform. Young people leading it. So I have to thank firstly everyone who responded to the tweet 1 year ago. And this is not going to be one of those very long thank you speeches, No, I'm not yet there. We will get there. But everyone who responded to the tweet, 1 year ago, we showed up on Zoom. We were all in pandemic lockdown in India, if you remember. And well, this is where it all led to. It was basically that one meeting that led to all of this. Thanks, Snehal, for always agreeing to ideas that I put forth and saying yes to them even before I tell her the idea. I take it that she trusts me. And to all of you who nominated members from your group who participated in this, that includes Radhika, that includes Adeline's team, Hema, Arval, Parvati, Akshit. Thank you so much. And to all our international participants making it work in spite of time zones. So Mark, Tom, and Joey, thank you very much. Thank you. Is there anyone else, Snehal, you'd like to mention?
No, I think yes. Yeah, I think just like all the volunteers who've been really helpful. I think Karthi did like an amazing job with like putting up, making the videos and all the creatives for these 2 days. So yeah, I mean, just thank you to all the volunteers for putting in your time and all the participants who showed up. I hope that this was helpful.
Yes.
And I hope we are able to do more meetings like this. So thank you so much. We hope you enjoyed the Biofilm Baithak.
Yes, and thank you for your ideas and inputs and enthusiasm, right? So to building a stronger biofilm. We can raise a toast to that.
Yes.
Well, it's 4 p.m. in India. It's the right time. Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you, everybody.